have supported her work already in the last hackathon. Kerstin was in Sokode and was working with the local authorities and was actually developing data infrastructure based on OpenStreetMap, which will present this in the next around half an hour. Afterwards, we have time for discussions. You have the chance to ask questions and learn more about the work. And afterwards, we then have the rest of the evening to map. We will try to finish Sokode today. We actually have 89% in the task, so 11% to go. Let's do that tonight. And we also have the chance to, if we manage that, we will work on another task in Kinshasa today. Let's see how we go. And we will also chat with the Missing Maps guys in London later today. They have a parallel mappathon, the monthly mappathon in London today, the Missing Maps mappathon. And apart from that, we also have a new app that we want to show you today, and that you can, that you can test as well if you have a smartphone with you. Otherwise, we can show you as well, and we have the possibility to try today. Okay, but now, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and thank you for helping me mapping Sokode. It was a project for my master thesis. I was in Sokode last year for an internship, and it was not planned to work with a local community in Sokode. It was by chance, or it happened just like this, and I had the chance to work with the local authorities in Sokode, with the cadastre, at the town hall, and with the GIScience. And they invited me this year to make my master thesis, to work with them on a map of Sokode, to have a map of this or city plan, because there aren't any plans of the city yet. Does it work? Yeah. Well, you see some images from Sokode, from the cadastre. This is my chief, the engineer from the cadastre, and his people working with him, and the tools they use. And you see those plans, those maps, they draw by hand. And now they saw me, and they knew I can can use AutoCAD, and they wanted to use AutoCAD as well to make their plans. And for a global image of the city, it's also necessary to have a whole map of the city of Sokode. So we had the idea to use OpenStreetMap and map the whole city, and use afterwards those plans made by AutoCAD with the tools of OpenStreetMap. Well, I mentioned before, they make those plans, and they use this machine. It's like a blueprinter, or I don't know, it's like a very old machine to print those blue plans. And this plan is the only plan which is, well, the right plan for the state, that this is your land. If your plan is in blue, it's the right plan. Then all the authorities may accept your land, your property, which is marked on the plan in blue. And there's just one person in Togo which has this machine, and this guy here is also an engineer, a cadastre engineer. And you see how they design by hand those plans, and they will scan it in this machine and print it. And that's how it works still today. Why do we need plans in Sokode? Well, there are some difficulties and problems, because there's an inverse urbanization, which means people come to the city, they settle down, they build their house, and afterwards they recognize, oh, there's no street, there's no infrastructure, there's no water, there's no electricity access, and so on. And for example, there might be holes like this after rainy times, you can't pass the street, and which is kind of difficult. Or also for the waste, there's no system, and they put it in the waterways in rainy times. The water should be run down the street, and it doesn't work because they use it for their waste and burn it afterwards. And so some little problems, also hygienic problems, are caused. And so we need plans to plan before and afterwards do the settlement in the city of Sokode. You can also see like a bridge which is planned now because a school was built, well, there was a settlement, a quarter, and there wasn't a school. Afterwards, they need to install a school for the population which lived there, but they didn't have a place, so they need to build the school besides a river. And each time when it rains, the whole school is flooded. And so this causes also problems, and the kids can't go to school because they need to cross the river, and in the rainy season they can't cross the river because there's water inside, and so they needed to build a bridge, for example. And therefore planning is very important, and they need a map for the whole city. Also to do the adressage, like there are no addresses in Sokode. That's a little bit funny. They put their phone number on the house over the door, and if the person isn't at home, well, you can call her. There are no street names and so on. So, well, a little bit of planning would be very helpful here. So my goal for my master's thesis was to develop a tool to make very fast maps where there aren't any maps, and everybody can work with laptops, smartphones, and so on, work together to have an actual map material. Some theoretical background, but just a little bit. Maps can be used different, and I have had also a very critical thinking about maps, because here, for example, you can see Australia in the map. It's a very strange way for us that Australia is in the north hemisphere, and well, it was developed by an Australian, of course. Here you can see the right spaces or the right forms of the continents, which is also very strange way, maybe if you see it the first time. We usually use this kind of map, or the Mercator map, and this is also the map which is used by OpenStreetMap and also by Google Map. And you see that maybe here Africa looks a little bit smaller than here, for example. So we have to have this in mind, that there are different projections of maps and so on, and that we use this one, which might be a little bit Eurocentric and also critical because of this. This map shows how big is Africa. You can see you can put whole China, the United States, you can put Europe and India into the size of Africa, which is also very exciting, I think. And I was just in Togo, which is a very small country here, and I made, well, one perspective. I show you one perspective how it could be doing a missing maps project in a local community. Maybe it won't work in another community in Africa. It's just a little perspective. I wanted to install a geodata infrastructure or a spatial data infrastructure. Well, first of all, we started with paper maps, and this already 3,000 years before us, the people painted on walls or on stones maps for orientation. And we had paper maps, still now we use paper maps. Then the second generation started with a digital GIScience, GISc, for example, which we use for mapping. And in the third generation we have web geo information and mobile geo information. With our smartphones, for example, we can use a map and look where we are going. And nowadays we have the fourth generation of geodata, and which is the ubiquitous geo information, where we use also sensors, and we can map on the smartphone, and another person could use this data in the same time. So it's very ubiquitous nowadays. Well, maps aren't just fun and very helpful, they could be also used in a critical way. So give me a map and let me see how much is left for me to conquer all the world. It's very colonial structure. Why should I go to Togo to tell them how to map something as a white person, as a European person? I thought a lot about this, but well, in fact, they invited me. They knew what I can, and they wanted to have my knowledge. And so, well, I thought it might be okay. And it was also very selfish, maybe, because I want to go there. I want to meet the people. Also, I have the choice. On the other hand, a map can also for example, the GIScience wants to plan a tax system in Togo and Sokode, but the people don't want it. They don't want to pay taxes for their property, and so, for example, poor people they don't want to have a map of their building because they can't pay taxes later, and so it's not in their interest to have a map. And there's also the question about data and privacy. Do I want my shop on a map, on OpenStreetMap, which is open for everyone? It's also a question we have to have in mind. But on the other hand, we have also the safety of property. If there is my property on OpenStreetMap, for example, I can go and make politics with it, and well, it's my property and I have a kind of safety about it. It's also good for orientation. All the people who I showed OpenStreetMap, they were really glad about it to have now a navigation system, to use OSM and to go somewhere, and it's, well, and therefore it's very, very practical, and also as information basis for the local authorities for the planning systems and so on. They need a map to plan infrastructure, for example, and also for crisis mapping, like you do it, or disaster mapping. It's also very helpful to have a map. Well, I thought about which tools I could use for my mapping project in Sokode. At first, I thought about the typical, usual geographical system like Fernerkundung, to look on aerial images and then draw about this. But of Sokode, this is the latest one. I think it's from the 80s. They don't have actual aerial imagery of photographs, so it wasn't a possibility to draw on this. It's because it's very expensive to make new plane flights to make those photos. I compared some satellite imagery, for example Bing or Google, and hybrid or herein from Nokia. And I recognize that Google is almost the newest satellite imagery, but for Sokode, but it's not allowed to draw on Google. So OpenStreetMap uses Bing because there's a license for it, and so we use Bing, which the satellite imagery is from the year 2013, which is quite okay. It's not the best, but for the first map, it's really okay. So this is the basis for the remote mapping. I thought also about unmanned planes with cameras, like droning, but it was too expensive in my case, and also I never used a thing like that before, so it might be in the future very, very important for drawing maps, but in my case it didn't work out. So I concentrated myself on global navigation satellite systems, GPS systems, OpenStreetMap, and mobile geo-information and apps. And these three are compact in 3 apps like OSM Tracker, OSM and Mapillary, and I used those 3 for my work. And I used you and missing maps, and the hot tasking manager with the project of Sokode. And I think you know the process with remote mapping. That's what you did, because it wasn't possible in Sokode to map ourselves on satellite imagery because there's less internet connection. So we can't download on JOSM the satellite imagery. So it's not possible to draw on this. So we need you, and it was very, very, very cool that you did it. And yeah, this was the first step. And the second step, I went to Sokode again with the local people. We had a mapathon or a mapping party. We went with our GPS devices and OSM tracker through the streets and named buildings and streets. Well, no streets, but buildings, and made the frontiers of quarters and so on. In the third step, well, this is the missing map step for the humanitarian thinking. Well, I showed you why we need a map in Sokode. There are many other possibilities to use it too. Here, the shape of Togo. I was in Sokode, which is in the middle of the country and the second biggest city of Togo with about 100,000 people. The biggest city is the capital, Lomé, and there I met, in the first week I was in Togo, the OSM Togo, which exists since 2013. And we did also a little mapping party in Lomé, and they showed me how they work there, and it was also quite fun. And they meet every second Saturday and do a little mapping party in the morning. And I could invite them also to Sokode to make a mapping project there over 4 days, but later more about this. So my goal was to make like a little bit crowdsourcing cadastre model and work with the local authorities together, do workshops and training for the people, use open source data and also open source software, and also smartphones, GPS devices, and so on. Well, let's go to Sokode. To prepare my visit, I did some field papers. I printed them and took them with me to for the orientation, or if we could, well, we gave them to the people and they could locate them and look, you're going this street, you're going that street, and so we didn't cross each other to map things twice. And also for the people who didn't have smartphones or other GPS devices, it was also practical to map on the field paper itself. I needed to also write an invitation to all the people who wanted to, who we wanted to invite to our mapping party in Sokode, because it was official. The town hall, well, I was first of all invited by the town hall, and then we invited the local authorities, and the town hall, well, I got the town hall to pay also something for the 4 people who came from Lomé, from OSM Togo, so we could invite them, and afterwards they can stay in contact. While I'm back in Germany now, they will help each other, which is, well, quite good, or even better. And so some organizational stuff. Then the remote mapping process started on May 12th. I think you know this hot tasking manager, and this was the processes from 12th May till 30 June 30th, and there was at 86%. Today's are at 89%, and maybe this evening at 100%. We will see. And on the map, you can see in February there are only streets, and it was also Herman, a person from OSM Togo, who mapped all the streets. It was me who mapped in the first time some buildings, but well, we see what everybody did, and nowadays the map is almost completed. But you can't see everything on the satellite images because there are clouds or sometimes reflections and you don't know what's behind, so you need also the mapping, the local mapping. And so we did a mapping party. We invited about 40 local authorities. That means people from NGOs, from the planning ministry, from the cadastre, different persons who are interested in mapping. And it wasn't easy the first time to get all them together in the town hall because everybody has his own interest and don't want to share the knowledge. And so it was a little bit tricky in the beginning, but the second day all the people saw, maybe we could invite this person or that person because, well, they might be interested too, and well, it's okay if they come. And so the second day they were with us. The first day we didn't have electricity, so it was also a little bit tricky, and well, we talked about OSM, what's OSM, and we installed all the technical devices on the laptops and smartphones, and we started a little bit tracking with the OSM tracker and GPS devices. And the second day we did the tracking with OSM tracker and GPS and field papers. The third day we did the editing in GIScience because GIScience works without internet connection, which is very practical. And so we started editing, and the fourth day we didn't have internet and we didn't have electricity, so we did some stuff about QGIS and started to export the data. Well, I exported the day before, but I tried to work with the data. And that's about that in Sokode. After this week mapping party, we did some other mapping parties to use it, and you can see some people. It was also fun because the two sitting here, they didn't have their own computer, so they used mine in German. But at the end, they knew the words in German better than in French, which was quite fun and awesome. And this one here, he's an informatician, and he's now working with a project or like the. Now we have a WhatsApp group, and he's organizing other mapping events, and so it can go on. About OSM tracker, maybe you know it. We took photos or texts, which was very useful. If there were many people before a building, for example, you can't take a photo and they won't ask you, what are you doing, why are you taking a photo of me? So maybe a text might be easier. And then we loaded a track into GIScience. You can see there's no satellite imagery because there's no internet. But you see the track. And now you can open, for example, this photo on top. That's the post office, for example, and you can name the building which is already there from the remote mapping process. We try to use also OSM art, but the problem here is also the internet connection. It's very slow there, and so usually it would be easier to make a point of interest directly in OSM art, but without internet it doesn't work, so OSM tracker is better for this. Well, like here you could set, for example, a point of interest or mapillary. You can take photos which are georeferenced in the same point. Everybody can make this, and afterwards, for example, remote mappers can use it. And this is, for example, Lomé. We couldn't use mapillary in Sokode because of the internet connection, but in Lomé you can see a lot of photos taken. And for example, here in GIScience also, the green points are the photos, and I think this red one is this picture here for remote mapping, very interesting tool also. And here you can see some points of interest we made in the streets, like well, I mentioned before, sometimes they like to write names in big letters, in capital letters, so yeah, there's some discussion left, but some information is there. To export the data, you can use the export button on OpenStreetMap homepage. You can also use PV Bike, which is also quite cool. You can choose your region you want to export. You can export whole Togo, for example, and let it send to you to your email address. And which I like most is hot export. And there you can have, for example, a thematic scheme where all the data is already clustered in different themes, which is very good for working afterwards with the data. But it's a pity it's only available for the southern countries, or almost all the southern countries. And this is Sokode, for example, in QGIS. In QGIS, you can change the data from a shapefile to DXF, and with DXF you can use it also in AutoCAD, which is now possible for further preparation for the cadastre. For example, they can shape their buildings, like here, for example, also a tool made by AutoCAD. We have now the whole plan on top, and you can have your measurements of the buildings, and which is quite interesting that the sizes are almost the same as in real life. We measure the building of the town hall with our strip, and it's almost the same size from OpenStreetMap, which gives a good accuracy for further use. Well, what's going on now in Togo? You see, this is one from OSM Togo, but he has a OSM Benin t-shirt because there's an OSM group in West Africa and they work together. Well, if there's a payment, they can go to other countries and map there. And they want to map whole Togo, but well, there's missing money, so they can't go everywhere to map. But step by step, they are doing the cities, and also Lomé, which is a very big city, to map. I showed you this guy already. He's staying in Sokode with this guy. Those two are organizing some mapping events in Sokode. This is a professor at the university with some students. At the moment they're having GIS courses in geography, but it's just about 2 hours in the whole life and just theoretical. And because they don't have much or many computers at university, and there are about 1,000 students in the first semester, and they have about 8 computers. So it doesn't work very well, but with OpenStreetMap they could use it, and they will do a cooperation. OpenStreetMap Togo now, I brought them in contact, and maybe there's something going on in the future. And he's from the planning ministry in Sokode, and he's very good. He's very good in ArcGIS, and so he has a good mapping experience. And if he has time, he will map all the frontiers of the quarters, for example, in Sokode. Well, that's the plan for the future. And for the conclusion, maps are more than pieces of paper. They are stories, conversations, lives and songs lived out in a place and are inseparable from the political and cultural context in which they are used.